The bearded one here. Guys, I want to talk about sunk costs. Now, in business and in relationships, sunk costs do exist. Sunk costs are basically an investment or expenditure that you cannot recover, so you cannot get it back. So, for instance, if you're in the oil business, you've drilled a couple of wells that have turned up dry, those are sunk costs. They're gone, you can't get them back. Hopefully, you will find a well that allows you to get back to make enough money to cover those initial sunk costs that you can't get back from those specific wells. Same thing for research and development. Sometimes you research something and it comes to a dead end. It doesn't lead anywhere. It's a sunk cost. It doesn't generate any returns, any revenue. It doesn't give you back what you were hoping to get from in making that kind of investment. So you're going to have to make do, and you're going to have to make peace with having sunk costs in your business, that there are going to be opportunities you go for that do not pan out and you end up losing money, and things not working out puts you in a position where you have to either find another way to get that money back, or it puts you back 2, 3, 4 years and you end up in a situation where you have to kind of bide your time before getting back on your horse and getting back on your feet. You will have to make psychological peace. I want to stress that. You have to really understand, in business I will have sunk costs. I will have situations where my investment will not pan out. My time and energy will not pan out. Employees will steal from me. Partners will argue with me and we'll get into a fight and we won't be able to get the value we were looking for. There's so many things that can happen in the business that result in situations where you lose money and you can't get back what you were hoping to get from making a certain investment. In relationships, sunk costs are similar in that you could invest a lot of time in a relationship with a girl or a woman, and she simply decides to walk away and start dating another guy, or to start or to go and be with another man. In terms of, you could have spent all your time invested in the girl 3, 4 years, then she wakes up one day and starts seeing some other guy and she's pregnant within 6 months and they're married, while you spent 4 years of your time trying to, with that same intention with this person, and they wasted your time basically. It's a sunk cost. You can't get back that time that they wasted. So it can be a situation where you wanted to have a child with her and she would say no, 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 no. She gets involved with some Tyrone figure and she's pregnant. And it can be hurtful, it can be painful, because you had such intentions of marriage, of long-term relationship, of children with this girl, and you spent all that time and effort and investment of resources in that, only for her to jump onto the next guy and do everything you spent so much time being patient for or working towards. So those are sunk costs, emotionally, energy-wise, resource-wise. All those are sunk costs. You can't get back any of that you put into that relationship. It's just gone forever. You're not going to get back the returns from that specific relationship. You could get the returns of the knowledge and the wisdom in the next relationship, but that relationship will not generate any value. There's no point of even thinking about it or continue to try anything with related to that relationship. Is done. People could be in divorce situations where they're getting divorced and you lose the house to your ex-spouse. That's a sunk cost. Or you lose the cars, or you lose some portion of your income, etc. Those are all sunk costs. So you've got to be very mindful and very careful who you invest in or what projects you invest in, because the sunk costs can be devastating, or they can just be irritating and can derail you. For instance, if you're in a relationship or you were in a relationship and your sunk costs were, you paid for this person to go to university, you paid for them to get a master's, or you paid for their mother's rent, which you shouldn't be doing at all, because if you're paying for the girl's mother's rent, it's got to be only in very, what can I say, extreme and unique situations, such as for one, it's temporary. It's not for longer than 3 to 4 months. And the woman in question must be somebody that has your children or you are married to. Preferably, it must be a property in which your children live or your partner lives or whatever. But don't sit around paying rent for mothers of of girlfriends, and when you break up, she acts like you didn't ever give her anything. I've seen that play out. I've seen girls who act like the guy that they were with, who paid their mother's rent, but food to put in their mother's fridge. And you're understanding me? These people ate because this person was providing that food for their fridge. They didn't have. This person gave to them what they couldn't get themselves. When they break up, or when she starts thinking she's got better options out in the world and jumps onto the next guy or whatever it is, she starts treating that person that was willing to make those kind of sacrifices and those kind of overtures of affection, of respect, and of commitment like he was trash, like he was garbage. Like, how dare he even be stupid enough to pay my mother's rent and to buy my mother food and to pay for medical bills. There are people who have experienced that. So it's not even a joke or trying to be sinister and malicious. You've got no business paying your girlfriend's mother's rent. If she's your wife, even then, you don't have the business paying the rent. Why can't she pay it herself? Why can't they figure out amongst the children or the relatives of that person to pay that rent? You're not a ATM or a cash cow to be paying anybody's bills. So be very careful. Do not enter a relationship, even if you're a person who's moneyed up, a person who's got resources, to start getting into situations where you paying for the other side's entire expenses and living and quality of life. That is nonsensical and that is unacceptable. What are you doing it for? If you're going to invest in a family, invest in your own family. Invest in your mother, invest in your father, invest in your cousin, in your brother, in your sister. If you got to buy a car, don't buy it for your girlfriend's mother. Buy it for your brother or for your sister or for your mother, because that's where you will get more returns, generally speaking, unless you got a strange family. But you got no business paying for those things for a mere girlfriend who you're not even very sure is committed and is about you, right? If you're dating somebody and you pay for the school fees, you help them get a PhD, you help buy them a house, a car, you help pay their mother's way, their son's way, their friend's way, their cousin's way, and you end up in a situation where there's a breakup and the other person's acting like you've never done anything for them, you've got to understand you're dealing with sunk costs. You're dealing with a situation in which every investment you've made in your affection, in your time, in your money is gone and cannot be recovered from that specific relationship. You've got to understand it's almost like feeding a pig money with peanut butter smeared all over it. If you took 10 million US dollars and smeared peanut butter and put it into a pig pen, a pig would eat it all with no concern or no acknowledgement of it being any different than if they were eating average pig food, whatever it is pigs eat. They wouldn't care, and they would poop it out with the same level of disgust and lack of concern as if they were eating some rotten apples. So if you fed a pig, that ex-spouse of yours, that ex-partner who is just sinister and mean, money smeared in peanut butter, don't be surprised when they poop it all out, okay? They don't care. They never valued that what you were doing was incredibly selfless. It was incredible that a human being is willing to cover a person that's not their parent, not their brother, and look after them and take care of them. And then after the breakup, all those specific individuals, the mother, the sister, the brothers, turn around and act like a pig towards that person that was willing to provide for them simply because he had a good heart and he was committed to their daughter. I mean, that's one of the things I would say. If I have a daughter, I would warn her, do not bring around me young men you don't intend to be taking seriously, because let's say my daughter's dating somebody for 5-6 years, right? And they break up. If I like that young man, I am going to keep hanging around with that young man. We're going to go play golf. We're going to go do things together. She doesn't have to be involved physically. We don't have to talk about her. She's not a part of any discussion that young man and I are having. It'll be simply like you introduced me to a new son if I really like the boy that much or the young man that much, because I am not going to start treating the young man like rubbish because my daughter has decided that she would rather have another boyfriend, another man friend, or date somebody else, or my daughter has decided that she doesn't feel he's valuable enough. If she is the reason that that relationship is breaking up, if she is the one that has been unjust, especially if that boy has been putting effort, I don't know if I have financial issues, he's helped me solve those financial issues, I look at him as a friend, and my code of honor does not allow me to turn around and treat him like crap. That's some people. Not everybody behaves that way, right? So you've got to understand that if you are making investments in your girlfriend's family, your fiance's family, in your wife's family, some of those are going to be sunk costs. You are not going to be able to recover a lot of them, and you're going to find yourself in a situation where you can't get back the money, you can't get back the time, you can't get back the attention, you can't get back the psychological attachment. You understand? So she's walking away with somebody else and she's decided to do whatever. It's a divorce. Sunk costs. That car, sunk costs. By knowing that sunk costs exist, you're putting yourself in another position. You're putting yourself in a position where you've got to understand that, listen, I've got to accept and I've got to be prepared for sunk costs in business and sunk costs in a relationship. And if it so happens that I have to lose money, I have to lose time, and I have to lose psychological connection or whatever it is that I invested in the past, I must be willing to let it go. I must be willing to move forward without becoming bitter, without becoming angry, without becoming vindictive, without becoming a person whose future is tainted, whose future is basically redirected from the future that I should be focused on to one where the anger of what these people from your past have done to you makes you feel like. So you've got to get to a point where you're like, okay, you know what? I know I spent money busy taking care of that girl's mother, and now she's treating me like crap and telling all her friends I'm a worthless loser, etc., etc. And everybody who I thought was a friend doesn't talk to me. Nobody calls me. Everybody's acting like they don't know me when I was busy spending thousands of dollars for them to be popping bottles. I let them borrow and rent my cars. I let them live in my properties. I let them go on holiday with me. And now they're all acting like they never met me and don't know who the hell I am and that I'm a loser and worthless. You've got to be willing to understand that some people have no honor. Some people have no heart to even look at the wrong they do and say, I've done something wrong. You understand? There are people who know that, listen, this woman has done a lot for me, or this guy has done a lot for me, and I've got to, even if I don't want to be with them, I've got to at least acknowledge that and show respect and honor for what they've done for me. Even if I don't want to be with them, I've got to respect and honor what they've done for me. That is courtesy. That is decency. There's a lot of people that don't have that kind of thing. I think there's a movie called Acrimony by Tyler Perry. It kind of deals with that kind of scenario to a certain extent. And the point is, we've got to learn to let go. We can't hold on to vindictiveness and anger and pain about what somebody else did to us. What they did was wrong. But what we got to do is right. We got to focus on ourselves. And we're going to focus on reacquiring what we've lost in terms of its money. We've got to focus on making more money. If it's self-respect, we got to gain self-respect and not let people treat us badly ever again. If it's foolishness to have given money to these people, is to know never to do so ever again under any circumstances. Whoever the person says, this is my son, that's none of my business. You educate your son on your own. You deal with your mother's rent on your own. I'm not paying it. Not because I'm a cruel person, but because I understand that these are sunk costs and I don't want to be taken advantage of yet again. So you've got to think that way. You got to understand sunk costs do exist and they can have incredible impact on your finances, on your psychology, and even on just your emotional state if you're not careful. This is true for both men and women, but specifically because I talk to guys, this is specific to you guys, especially divorce scenarios. You've got to understand you could waste 8 years of your life on a woman and she runs off and gets pregnant next week with another guy. Or you have a marriage and you thought it was going somewhere, she divorces you and takes half, and it turns out the whole thing was a scam. You've got to be willing to accept sunk costs, walk away from it, and focus on yourself and start reaching out to get the lifestyle you deserve without letting the past hold you back or the bitterness poison you. You've got to be aware of those sunk costs. There will be sunk costs in every relationship, in most relationships, because we don't marry every girl we date. We probably marry 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 of the women that we've dated, or 1 out of 30. And even then, we might get married once, maybe twice, whatever it is. Whichever way it goes, those are sunk costs. The time you invested in that person is a sunk cost, and you've got to be willing to accept it. There are guys in the world who get so angry about the injustice, get so angry and hurt by what the other person has done or what the other people have done, that they take it out in violence that is hurting that individual, whether some people kill the individual, whether it is with a gun, knife, poison, acid. Some people take it out in violence against the person who has wronged them because it hurts them that bad. They feel so hurt about what the person did to them that they just can't wait but to poke them back, to hit them back, to make them feel the pain that they've gone through. The reality is your life is worth too much. Your future is worth too much to waste it in jail, to waste it being dead if you get yourself killed, or spending 40, 30 years of your life in jail, or 3, 4 years in jail, or simply the reputational damage it may do to your business and other things about you, when in fact you could simply, not simply, but you could work through it and let go and meet a better woman, prettier, younger, more successful in her own way, and move on and have a fantastic life with her, knowing that you're adapting and you're going to implement all the learnings from the lessons of having dated that other person, or having had those sunk costs related to the other person. You don't go drill in the same place that you already have oil wells that haven't returned oil. You look at the data and you say, after 4 or 5 wells, I can't afford to keep digging. I don't think this may be a good location. Let me look at more data and see where to go next. You've got to also vet the people that you get involved with. If you're a very wealthy individual, get a private investigator. Get this person to analyze where this person that you're trying to get involved with goes, who they talk to, how they spend money, their past, what they've done. If you discover that they've done something like date a rich person and run off after a certain time with divorce, or something terrible where the person's paying their rent and all that, and all you've heard from this person about that other person is they were a monster, they were sick, they were bad, yet they were paying that person's mother's rent and medical fees, there's a point you got to realize, I'm dealing with a snake. I'm dealing with somebody that's going to do the same thing to me, and I need to back off before my sunk costs are irrecoverable. Before I put too much in this person, I got to back off. I got to be mindful. I got to watch this person's history, this person's behavior, to avoid getting into a situation where I'm going to deal with heavy sunk costs in the future. Same thing with business. If you see there's a situation where something bad has happened in a business, and this business does not seem to be quite transparent or quite obvious as to what's going on there, and people have sunk money in it before, chances are you should back up. You should not be taking that risk, because most likely you're going to be throwing more money at the same problem and getting the same results. So you've got to be mindful. So I'm just saying, guys, that we've all experienced sunk costs. We've all experienced situations where we can't get back what we put into something, but we can learn from it, and we can make better decisions about who we let into our lives in the future and the kind of things we allow in our future. If we can't change the past, we can change the future. And being angry, agitated, and pissed off about what happened in the past can be an impetus to change your behavior. But don't use it as a means to continue being angry, to continue focusing on that person that did you wrong. They're not worth it. They're not worth your time. They're not worth your attention. They're not worth a single minute more of you saying, man, I can't believe she slept with my best friend. Let it go.